In response to Monsignor Athanasius Schneider's article about Pope Francis, published in LifeSite News on November 26, 2024. By Father Jesus Mary.
The See of Peter is vacant. On November 26, 2024, His Excellency Athanasius Schneider published an article on LifeSite News explaining why he believes Francis must be the Pope. What should we think of this thesis by the Auxiliary Bishop of Astana, Kazakhstan? The very first point is that whether someone is Pope or not is not a question of belief, otherwise we would fall into a subjectivism where some would accept such and such a person as Pope and others would reject him, which would obviously lead to chaos in the Church. To be Pope or not to be Pope is an objective, real, true and indubitable fact. Let us now turn our attention to Jorge Mario Bergoglio, who was elected Pope Francis on March 13, 2013. Is he Pope or not? In principle, all Catholics trust the cardinals and never doubt that the one they have elected to the chair of St. Peter is really Pope. So why are there so many doubts about the Argentine Pope? It is quite simply due to the many moral and doctrinal errors, including heresies, that have appeared in his magisterium between 2016 and 2024. Here is a brief reminder: Holy Eucharist given to remarried divorcees who refuse to struggle to avoid their sexual cohabitation. Amoris Laetitia, March 19, 2016. Birth control through direct sterilization by hysterectomy, December 10, 2018. Heretical denial of the original sanctity of the Virgin Mary, December 21, 2018. Religious relativism which heretically denies the specificity of Christianity as the definitive religion willed by God for the salvation of all humanity, February 4, 2019. 4th of October 2019. 25 and July 27, 2022, 13 and September 17, 2024, Holy Eucharist given to all publicly pro-abortion Catholic politicians who do not renounce abortion, 31st of January 2020, May 7, 2021, September 15, 2021, 3, 9 and October 29, 2021, June 29, 2022, Promotion of homosexual cohabitation laws, October 21, 2020, September 15, 2021, 5 February 2023, 10 March 11, 2023, March 19, 2024, Segregation of traditionalist Catholics and persecution of the traditional Latin Mass, Traditionis Custodes, 16th of July 2021, Blessing of adulterous couples and homosexual couples, Fiducia Supplicans, 18 December 2023, 4, 26 and January 29, 2024, February 8, 2024, March 19, 2024, 19 May 2024, Heresy against the majesty of God by falsely attributing His infinite ontological dignity to human beings, Dignitas Infinita, April 2, 2024, etc. Faced with this panoply of moral, doctrinal and liturgical errors, the doubts of Catholics the world over about the validity of Bergoglio's election to the Petrine See have a real basis, and bring to mind a simple method that the Church has taught us to know whether someone is Pope or not. The dogma of papal infallibility. To be Pope is an unquestionable fact with a very important underlying element. God necessarily gives the Pope the grace of infallibility by virtue of which he is preserved from teaching a moral or doctrinal error to the whole people of God. We can therefore apply a simple, logical and flawless reasoning to the papacy, in relation to the dogma of papal infallibility. A pope never universally teaches a moral or doctrinal error, whereas an anti-pope does. Does the dogma of papal infallibility apply to Francis? Do our eyes see the grace of papal infallibility in his soul? No, and that is normal, because it is the same for St. John Paul II, Benedict XVI and all their predecessors. It is like what happens to the state of grace in the souls of human beings. When we look at an individual, our eyes do not see the state of grace in his soul. However, the Church teaches that with just one grave sin, committed consciously and voluntarily, we are sure that his soul is not in a state of grace. Looking at Francis, Our eyes do not see the grace of papal infallibility in his soul. However, the Church teaches that with just one heresy taught consciously, voluntarily and universally, we are sure that he is not Pope. Just as the unanimous consent of Christians cannot give the state of grace to a soul, so too it cannot give the grace of papal infallibility to Jorge Mario Bergoglio. So what should we do if we want to know for sure whether Francis is really Pope? Look for a moral or doctrinal error that he consciously, voluntarily and universally taught, officially insisting that all Christians accept it as truth. Does such an error exist in Francis' magisterium? Unfortunately, yes. The only error that could show that Francis is not protected by the dogma of papal infallibility is that of June 5, 2017, in relation to the post-synodal apostolic exhortation Amoris Laetitia. In fact, on September 5, 2016, Archbishop Sergio Alfredo Fanoy and the bishops of the pastoral region of Buenos Aires wrote a letter to Francis, explaining how they were applying Amoris Laetitia. Numbers 5 and 6 of this letter contain the following three sentences: the commitment to live in continence can be proposed. Amoris Laetitia does not ignore the difficulties of this option. The mentioned option may not, in fact, be feasible. According to these three sentences, the commitment to live in continence, i.e. the virtue of chastity, is an option. But this is false and constitutes a heresy that rejects the universality of the 6th and 9th commandments. What is surprising is that on the same day, September 5, 2016, Francis wrote a letter in response. I received the text of the Buenos Aires pastoral region. The text is very good and thoroughly explains the meaning of Chapter 8 of Amoris Laetitia. There are no other interpretations. And on June 5, 2017, he formally ordered Cardinal Pietro Parolin to publish the Argentine bishop's letter and the papal response on the official Vatican website and in the official Vatican archives, stating that they constitute a magisterium authenticum, 1, a true magisterium. All the conditions are therefore met for affirming that Francis has presented his approval of the Argentine bishop's heresy as an infallible teaching. 1. His desire to have this accepted by the Universal Church is evident from the publication on the official Vatican website, accessible to all Christians, and in the official Vatican archives. 2. The definitive nature is confirmed by his letter of reply, which states that no other interpretation is possible. 3. What he is asking to be accepted involves a moral error which is even a heresy. 4. He gave his order to Parolin as pastor and doctor of all Christians. Personally, I remain committed to respecting the Code of Canon Law and the laws of the Church. I therefore recognize Jorge Mario Bergoglio as the official Pope of the Church, since he was elected by an official act of the Church. The day that another official act of the Church publicly announces to all Christians that he is not Pope, then I will cease to recognize that he is officially Pope. What can all of us Christians finally do when we see the multitude of errors and heresies mentioned above, and especially the one that could prove that Francis has not received the grace of papal infallibility? 1. In accordance with Canon Law, we must all love and pray unitedly for Pope Francis, so that he may have the humility to acknowledge his errors and correct them. If he fails to do so, he runs the objective risk of losing his eternal salvation, because his errors concern acts that are intrinsically evil. It is not a question of fighting between the pro-Francis and anti-Francis factions, because the Church of Jesus Christ is the Church of peace. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. 2. In a spirit of truth, it would be good for every Episcopal Conference to study the errors of Francis' magisterium, and their serious consequences for marriage, the family, the sacraments, the liturgy and dogmas. Because the Church of Jesus Christ is the Church of truth, I am the way and the truth and the life. 3. With the same courage used to reject fiducia supplicans, it would be good for every Episcopal Conference to write to the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith so that it can officially ask Francis to correct the doctrinal errors of his pontificate: unicity of the infinite ontological dignity of God, unicity of universal salvation in Jesus Christ, original holiness of the Virgin Mary, etc., and the moral errors, Amoris Laetitia, hysterectomy, fiducia supplicans, etc. 4. What should the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith do if Francis refuses to correct his obvious and objective errors? Declare and officially inform the Episcopal Conferences that Jorge Mario Bergoglio has excluded himself from the communion of the Church by means of an excommunication latae sententiae, in application of Canon 1364, 4, and that the see of Peter is vacant. 5. What should the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith do if the study of the dogma of papal infallibility leads to the conclusion that Francis has not been protected by this divine grace? Declare and officially inform the Episcopal Conferences that Jorge Mario Bergoglio has never been pope, and that the see of Peter is vacant. All the above leads one to legitimately ask the following questions. Did Pope Benedict XVI really resign freely, with all the psychological pressure that was intended to push him to resign, contrary to Canon 188, death threats, the action of the wolves, VatiLeaks, the conspiracy of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton and George Soros according to John Podesta's emails, the maneuvers of the international banking company SWIFT, etc.? Since Canon 188 states that a resignation made out of grave fear that is inflicted unjustly is invalid by the law itself, can we not say that this psychological pressure is at the root of the revelation that Benedict XVI made to Peter Sewald, his biographer, when he told him that the central motive for his resignation was chronic insomnia, which meant that he always had to take medicine to go to sleep? Letter of October 28, 2022. Was there not also a fundamental error that would have invalidated Francis' election in 2013? The see of Peter is vacant.